So I'm Kaelina Matthews. I'm a senior at North Central High School this year. My freshman year, I was on the state championship team, and I actually was able to help score some points on being on the 4x8 team. I have been MIC champion in the 800, sectional champion in the 800, and a bunch more. I've held a couple school records, and yeah.
Well, nice. I'd say that's quite the arsenal to begin with. We see all
Absolutely.
the plaques and the medals and the ribbons and everything else behind you, so we know you're a well decorated athlete. So yeah, so some of
Yes,
those speak for themselves.
right. Absolutely. And I love that quote behind you. It's the rougher seas that teach us how to
Uh,
sail with glory. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
I try to read it every morning just as a little motivation to help get through the day and stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Well,
borrow
speak
that.
right. I'm literally about to take a screenshot of it. Well, speaking of motivation, right? Like what got you interested in the sport?
It was honestly my parents, they growing up, like we always did like the family 5K runs, and like my dad was did a bunch of Ironmans and marathons, and so my whole like it was just kind of something naturally to get into. I was a very shy as a child, and so they made me join cross country when I was in second grade just to try to help me like get outside my comfort zone, and then it kind of just exploded into what it is today, and that I still do it even now.
Oh, that's good. You were a shy child.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gathered that one. Yeah, I could have never have guessed that. Yeah.
Wow. What would you say is your, I mean, because you have a widespread of things that you compete in and you do really well. What would you say is like your favorite event?
I love the 800. Put me in the 800
Okay.
all day. It's like that's what I always ask for. So like being on the 4x8 has been such a fun experience. As I've gotten older in high school and everything, I've started to do more individually, and that's been fun just to see because you need the speed and then you need the endurance too to do well in it. So it's fun to push myself.
Yeah. Well, who's been your biggest inspiration when it comes to
Uh, I would probably say my dad. He was my coach back in middle school, and he's always been pushing me and just seeing how well he did with like Ironman and even later in life with his runs. It's always been fun just to like talk about and hear like where he's coming from, where I'm coming from, and like compare like our goals that we have when we were like similar ages. And I definitely look up to him a lot.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, you are already mentioning your dad, and we'll get to introducing him and your parents in a bit because we like to give them shout outs. But
Yeah.
clearly from your freshman year, you had a lot of memories that you already began to create. What would you say is one that kind of sticks out?
I would probably say freshman year outdoor state was a big one, just with being on the same team as like Ramaya Elliott and actually winning the championship it was such a fun memory. And then just having them like afterwards, we lost the keys to our bus, so searching around after all of that, trying to like get home, and we were like the last ones there, and we couldn't find the keys for like 45 minutes, and it was just such a fun experience, like just having that team bonding essentially, even after we had achieve such a great result, honestly.
What a, what a way to kick off your freshman year, right?
right?
Yeah, I can't top that.
Yeah. Now that had to be a little bit of a challenging time there, with
Yeah.
the bus part. But what would you say is like, because you know, distance running it takes a lot of time, right? So you may sometimes have two practices, you do
Mhm.
cross country, so you have a lot going. How do you balance that with your academics?
Yeah, it's been definitely been a challenge over the years. I finally have gotten my schedule down. I try to, as soon as I wake up, I do like a meditation just to like get me ready for the day. And then when I'm at school, I try to focus in on school. Like I spend as much as my time getting all my homework done. So I spend my lunch period doing homework, any like extra free time I do. And then I luckily have a couple hours after school before practice to also finish all my homework, but as soon as I'm like out of school and done with most of my homework, it's all focused on running, and that's where I put most of my time and energy into.
That's great that you insert doing work during the day in that way. I'm sure when you're finished with practice, you're ready to just eat and pass out. So that's
Exactly.
smart. And then I like what you said about doing meditation. And so with that, how has that kind of helped you? Is that something that you've always done? Were your parents or your coaches influence for that? And then my second caveat to that is how do you prepare mentally for competition?
Yeah, so with the meditations, they've kind of been on and off over the years. This year, I've been a lot more frequent about them, and I try to always like, I have meditation that works really well for me just to help me get in the mindset, especially for running. And then I try to journal down afterwards just so I can visualize my race and like write down my goals and anything that I've thought of while doing that meditation. And then for meets, I try to keep a very similar routine throughout that morning or throughout the day, depending on when the race is. So I try to eat the same, like breakfast usually, similar lunches, and then I have my like random kind of exercises that I do right before I race, like on the line. You can usually see me jumping, and then I do my hair the same way too, just to
Wow.
help me feel good about my race.
Well,
We
you
learn so much, right? So that,
right. You have a sprinter's mentality. I don't tell
yes, you
anybody
do.
because that is only people ever say this is my routine. Like boom, 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 almost like the superstitions.
Yes,
So,
Yeah,
yeah, you
yes,
have that mentality. That's great though, because I mean, you
yes.
run essentially a sprinter's race. You
Hmm.
know, now in running like a race like the eight,
hmm
it can be anybody's day. I mean, track and field is one of those things where it can be anybody's day at any point in time.
hmm
The 800 is closer to a sprint, so that means you don't have as much room for error. So
yes.
you if you have a setback, say you don't run the race you want, you don't run the time you want, you got beat by somebody you didn't want to get beat by. How do you handle that? How do you handle those?
Yeah, I try to allow myself like 5 minutes to grieve over it essentially, just to like reflect and like be upset with how I did. But then I try to like go straight back and be like, okay, it's a learning experience. Obviously, it didn't go exactly how I wanted it to go, but now I know what I need to do differently in the future. And then just reflect and know, like train harder. It pushes me to do better in the future too. So I don't really think of it as like a bad thing. I think of it as just a step in the right direction, I guess.
I love that. I love that 5 minute assessment too, right? Because there's more than likely a chance that you will have another race after your 800. We may be pulling you into the 4x4 or something like that. So being able to assess really quick, but know you can go back to the drawing board. And so with that, what values do you think are important for an athlete to have?
Definitely dedication, commitment, perseverance, hard work. I think you also need to be able to reflect and not be so hard on yourself. I know that it's easier said than done, but yeah, I think those are the qualities that I think are really, really important for track and field.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, with those qualities, you actually you have some things where you show up and you win and you celebrate and you have victories.
Yeah.
And you talked about all the stuff you did with your parents. So how do you all celebrate your victory?
We have a family group chat, so we always like send like, "Oh, like great job, like how do you feel?" And then I respond and be like, "Oh yeah, pretty good, great, whatever." But I think they're always there to support me and celebrate me, which is such a nice thing. And they always remind me that I also need to celebrate myself, even if I wasn't exactly happy and even if I did do well. So I think it's just like they always like are there for me. They always send messages, and so it's just nice to have know that people are in my corner.
Awesome. And so, like I said earlier, we want to shout out the parentals. So give us their names and kudos to them for one, exposing you to the sport, right? But
Yeah.
then being your biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah, so my mom is Amy Matthews and my dad is Brian Matthews. And yeah, they've been my biggest supporters ever since day one.
Nice.
That is great. What will success look like for you this year? I mean, you've already had a lot of amazing accolades and amazing accomplishments. even going into the outdoor season. So what's your hope? What does success look like for you?
This year, I'm hoping to focus a little bit more on some individual stuff. I've been on the 4x8 team every year, and it's been amazing, and I love being on it and would not complain about being on it again. But I'm hoping to qualify in the Open 8 and potentially the 16, but definitely the Open 8 is where I'm focusing. And then I'm hoping to set the school record in the 8. That has been my goal for a long time. And then just being able to support the younger girls and like help them, give some advice saying like this is my last season, so I can help people figure out what they want to do with the future and make sure that they're going to have a good experience with track.
Yeah,
Nice.
an awesome lineup.
Yeah. What's the school record? I'm curious.
215.9.
Okay. Oh, you're right
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
You're right there. You're right
Yeah.
there. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Just the first warm day, it's over.
Yeah,
Look, yes,
exactly.
Taking it down, first warm day.
yes.
I hope so.
Yeah. So being that I always interpret the 800 is one of those very difficult races, right? So you got to have a little bit of natural talent in terms of speed wise, and then you also have to have a great work ethic in
Mhm.
terms of getting that endurance built in there. So how do you like look at it in terms of the importance of talent versus hard work? Like how do you measure that in terms of what's most important on your scale?
I would say hard work is definitely most important. I mean, if you have talent, you can get far, but hard work is what's going to take you the furthest, and that always going to outcompete talent, is what I think. So I think that hard work is definitely way more important, and I think honestly that's the only way that you can run the 8 well is having hard work.
Yeah.
For sure. And so, how would you say you stay motivated through those long practices, right? Even the day seeing you all do your warm up, which looked like the workout, and then going into that. So, you're going from cross country to track. So, what keeps you motivated through those long hours and through those long practices?
I would say my teammates are definitely very like they always are pushing me, and like just having like talking to people like they're going through the same thing as you are is nice to know, so it doesn't make it feel so alone, especially when it's a really hard workout or long. And then I always try to read myself like my goals that I have for the season right before practice, just to be like, okay, like this is the reason that I'm doing it, and that like I'm going to see progress because of these difficult practices.
I like that. I did not. You've been around the sport for a little while, so we're at we'll eventually get to the point when we host a meet. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, if there was one thing that you could change about the sport, what would it be?
Probably how long I have to wait to race. I wish that I could just show up and run, or that like the lines that you have to wait for the bathroom weren't so long, so I'm not like stressed out like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss my warm up and my race.
True. That
But
is true. It's a thing. That is very true.
I
yeah.
wouldn't know anything about that.
Look,
We never have lines.
know that I'm that coach you can grab and say, hey, can you walk me in and ask the ladies,
Mhm.
is it okay? Like I'm getting ready to race. So I've done that for our team. So just so you know that, just pull
Okay,
me.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll definitely take you up on that.
Yeah.
I think that would be great to have your own separate, like for the athletes, because especially for the girls, it's a lot. You're already
Yeah,
nervous, and now
stressful.
you run over, and it's not a quick run. You're in line. So no,
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
That was the most unique answer we've had thus far. It's all good though.
No, I was going to say, so we talked earlier about the quote that you have behind you, and you have goals that you have set for yourself. But what would you say is the best piece of advice one of your coaches has given you? And also share your coach's name, right? We know your coach's name, but we want the viewers to know who is poured into you, and being your biggest cheerleader in your track journey.
Yeah, so my coach is Chad Wallace, and I would probably say the biggest advice or the best advice I've given is that like at the end of the day, like we're all just people, and so you have to remember that like we are more than just runners, and that you have
Mhm.
to take yourself out of it sometimes even when the pressure's high, and to just enjoy like the sport and the times you get to run because it is limited depending on where you are, and um and just everything. So just enjoy while you have it and remember that you're human at the end of the day.
I love that. Look, that's great advice.
Right. That came from Coach Wallace.
I know. I was like, wow, I gotta write that one
No,
down.
not that he couldn't, not that he's not capable. I'm just it's like, oh, maybe I need to step my game up a little bit.
Look, Coach Wallace be dropping nuggets, right?
Right, right. Um, now with being a distance runner, you put in a lot of miles. How do you keep yourself like physically together, injury free? What do you do to maintain that?
I would say I take a lot of vitamins, lots and lots of vitamins, just to help give some boost in the areas that I might be lacking, like iron or magnesium or stuff like that. And then injury free. I've struggled with it a little bit. I've definitely had my share of injuries, as anyone has, but I think just also recovery. Recovery is essential. Stretching after runs and workouts, redoing like dynamics, doing like Normatec or ice baths too. That's definitely been really helpful for me when I'm feeling like something coming on, just to help get rid of it.
Like, you can add vitamin D in there too. I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know, Coach Jay is our nutritionist too, so I'm always like, we got a doctor on
Yeah.
the team doing some great things, helping us all, right? What would you say, if anything, you talked about the balance of your academics and athletics. Do you feel like you had to sacrifice anything being an athlete in both cross country and track?
Yeah, I would say like there's definitely been times when I probably should have gone to like support hours for help when I'm struggling with a certain subject or a unit that we're learning, where I've chosen track or cross country practice over it, and I don't regret it. I mean, track
Mhm.
and cross country is what I love to do, but I definitely have seen it has definitely affected, not affected my grades horribly, but I've just had to spend some extra time like learning myself outside of
Mhm.
school when I probably could have just gone and asked for helps and learned the answer quicker, but I don't regret it.
That's great. That's being very transparent and understanding like how important it is to ask for help. And uh, you have coaches that clearly will understand that. And so that's a good being self-aware of like what you could possibly do different, but also your desire and your craving for the sport. So that's really good.
Yeah. And so obviously because you chose practice over schoolwork, you enjoy your team, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I have a two-part question. One, what's your favorite part of being on a team? And then two, what makes you a great teammate?
I would say my favorite part about being on a team is like all the friendship I have. Like that's where all my best friends are. Like that's where we talk. We can talk running and people actually understand it, and just being able to have like funny memories and share memories from that team aspect. And then I would say probably what makes me a good teammate is I try to always listen and be there for people. Like if anyone has any questions, I try to answer it to the best of my abilities or try to figure it out for them. And then some people are a little bit afraid of Wallace, and so going up and asking him questions and stuff. So I just try to be there for everyone and know that like people can come to me. So I try to be open, I guess.
I love that. We're cracking up at the being afraid of Coach White.
Right. That's what I'm like, who's afraid of him?
If he's intimidating, then yeah, not saying that he isn't like, very
Yeah.
focused and intense and getting you all hyped and motivated, but I wouldn't think, oh my
Right.
gosh, you know,
I think
oh,
that
ask Coach Wise what we're doing today. Like that's interesting, right? Like perception is so interesting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. So if your teammates or even Coach Wise could describe you in one word, what would it be and why?
I would probably say focused because I always try to give it my 100% when I'm at practice. It doesn't always happen, but I try to. And like they can, I always get called like when I like get on the line, like you can always tell that I'm on it. And so Walls like calls me Big Meat Kaelina sometimes. And so,
I love that.
yeah,
We can get you a shirt. I love
yeah,
that.
I
yes.
know. You show up when it counts. That's what I'm talking about.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Kaylina, we appreciate you taking time out talking with us. Now,
Yes.
if people want to follow you or follow along how you're progressing throughout the season, where should they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kaelina Matthews, literally just my whole name, lowercase. And that's basically where I only am. So that's
Okay,
the best place to find me.
Love it.
good
I
deal.
love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing yourself with us, right? We see you on the track, we see you on the field, but it's so refreshing to be able to speak to the athletes, even ones we see often, and
Yeah.
get to know them off the field. So
Yeah.
definitely thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and we'll see you soon.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Very
yes.
All right. So you have a good one.
Thank you, you guys too.
Thanks.
Okay.